Okay, viewers at home, good evening. Welcome again to another session, another episode of Poverty Virus in Nigeria. Tonight, we are going to look at the common interest as a way out to our poverty virus. And the guest in the house is Victor Lee. He's an engineer and a data scientist by profession, by training, and by profession, he chose to be an entrepreneur. Today, he'll be taking us through his own thoughts and seeing the way out for us. I remain my humble self, Papka International, the one that have roots in Africa, branches in North and South America, Asia, Australia, Antarctica, and Europe. Do well to follow us and subscribe us on our YouTube channel at Papka International TV, our Facebook page, Papka International, for more episodes are coming on your way. You're welcome, Victor Lee.
Thank you very much, my Oga Papka, Papka International. I'd like to go by speaking in the Nigerian way, which is speaking the informal English. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to have you here, and I'm happy to be here for all of us. The topic tonight, or this evening, or at this hour of the day, depending on where you're watching us, is poverty virus in Nigeria, and we are looking at it from the perspective of common interest. These are all my thoughts. They are all my thoughts. It doesn't represent any organization. It's just what I've seen over the years. Just my very short journey so far and how I think I've been seeing things. Before we start looking at poverty in its whole sense, I feel it's always good or very interesting for us to understand the Nigerian concept in itself. What is Nigeria? How does it come to being? How did we get here? Where are we coming from? And from what we all understand, Nigeria has gone from being a British company to what is considered a country, and it has gone from that to what it is today. So if I've got a couple of bullet points here where I said Nigeria was formed out of the interest of Britain, because it's a former British colony, in the whole amalgamation and everything that happened at that point in time. Yes, Nigeria is matched together. We are multi-ethnic, we are multi-religious, we are multi-sentiment, we are multi-everything. So it's a very diverse environment, which if you look at so many organizations today, so many organizations are calling for diversity because they feel is the way forward. Unfortunately, we are supposed to be progressing as a matter of the fact that we are very diverse, but unfortunately we find ourselves in a very bad position as poverty is concerned. If you look at the structure of our economic system, we are more of a capitalist than any other thing. Yes, we are a former British colony, but we are very American in our structure of in our economic structure, and you can see that from that I would go deep into where capitalism really comes into the kind of structure we have today. Yes, poverty is a very extreme. Wealth gap is very wild. We have, when the rest of the world is saying Africa is poor, there is a lot of poor people in Africa. I mean, people in Africa cannot live more than $1 a day. An average Nigerian in me would come around and say, no, we have rich people in Nigeria. We have all those big names. And you say, like, don't you see people living in mansions? Nigerians, let's say we as Africans or as Nigerians, we want to go out there and show people. So we go to Abuja, we show people all the nice mansions. We go to VI, Ikoyi, and etc. Show people all those nice mansions. However, in the reality, there is a huge gap because the percentage of people with that cluster of wealth that we are talking about are very minute, whereas there is a huge population of poor people out there. So if you look at it, if we take percentage in terms of the whole land mass of Nigeria or the population of Nigeria, the population of the rich people in Nigeria, they are so minute compared and very negligible compared to the masses who are very poor. So we have a very huge wide what's called wealth gap. Looking at future insight, there was a statistics that came up and they were comparing China and Nigeria, and they were talking about Chinese people that they have more future insight compared to Nigerians, because Nigeria, we are so poor, poverty has gotten so deep into us that we just want to do everything to get out, and we only care about what we get today. Whereas a Chinese person would be thinking of what they will get in the next 5, 10 years. So they don't mind giving you something for free today. And if you can look at all the contracts we are signing at the government level, you realize how very low or shallow insights, how very shallow our insights are when we sign those deals, because we only care about just give me $50 billion today, and you just sign the whole land or the whole country away for the next 100 years. And if you see so many contracts that we've been signing, they are very similar to that. So you can see in our own insight. So poverty in itself is not even about the person that is very rich in capital or in cash, or the president. You can still be rich and still be and still be in poverty, because you can see from the way rich people are hoarding Indomie during the 1020 event that happened last year. So Nigeria has gone from being a British colony, and today we are where we are. And you can think about the Nigerian, after they left us, they gave power to those who seems to be their loyalists, because they are all military guys for many years. And at the adoption of democracy, we had a constitution, which some people are actually arguing today that it is still very illegal, because it was not done out of common interest. It was done by a group of people, and that constitution they formed is what has led us to where we are today. And that is why I have the green, white, green flag with a 2010-20 on it, where it is very possible for those who are supposed to be defending the citizens to open fire on those they are supposed to be defending. So looking back to our roots, we are not left alone in this problem. This is the 1750 map of the British Empire. Nigeria was there. And if you look at us, you look at India, Pakistan, you can see what they kind of look like. They are also very multi-ethnic, multi-religious, very diverse. Pakistan is still part of India in this map, but eventually they actually kind of broke apart. And if you look at all those countries I'm mentioning, they are all mixed group of people. In India, they have God knows how many number of tribes, different number of religion, different. And if you look at all of us, we are not united. The level of poverty in those countries are so huge. So, and the only ones that kind of seems to be a little bit different are the ones that are in the western side, like you see the US, Canada, who are British colony, and it's all dominated by Europeans. You look at so many other African countries, it's all different group of people fighting each other, and every one of them just like, okay, we found ourselves here, and etc. So the pattern that is occurring in Nigeria, you can actually see them in almost all British colony, starting from India all the way down to Sudan, all the way down to Kenya, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to spend much time on this map, but if you look at all of them, the pattern is the same everywhere, apart from the ones that are controlled by Europeans. Now, these are group of countries in the whole European Union by itself. I placed US and Canada on the other side too. They were all formed. There is something that is very common with them. It's called common interest. They were formed out of common interest. They came together, they say, let's have a deal. Let's form whatever. And on this term, and on this term, and on this term, we'll be able to exchange trade. We'll be able to exchange A, B, C, D. And everything went like, well, according to the agreement, and they've been operating and respecting that agreement for so many years. And you can see that, for example, the whole of EU, it has expanded up to like 27 countries before UK pulled out. And even when UK pulled out, it was still what? An agreement. Between US and Canada, there is an agreement that allows them to do a kind of trade exchange. Citizens of the US can go into Canada freely. Citizens of Canada can go into US freely, and they treat them according to that agreement that they had. And if you look at our own case, it was not an agreement. It was like legislation that was kind of imposed. And if you look at it, it is the it's actually having some kind of connection to the kind of poverty that we have created for ourselves, because I believe poverty is not a natural scenario. It's something that is created. So if you did not engineer your structure very well, that one of the things that will be coming out of it is what is poverty. So I'm not an economist, so I can't be going into that details for real. But if you look at the structure, what I'm trying to communicate here is that all the countries you are seeing here, they all were formed out of common interest. Even when they colonized Africa, when they colonized us, they had a common interest. Let's go and explore, and let's take these countries hostage, and let's turn the place into a farm, and etc. and etc. So that is what common interest means, meaning that let's sit together. Even, okay, for example, let me use the UK as an example. The UK consists 4 countries, and they have a common interest. They agreed to say, okay, defense and so will be something that we have to be doing on a national level. However, healthcare, education, maybe agriculture, and etc., will be done at state level, meaning that everybody did not really agree on that, and everybody is doing that separately. But what holds them together as United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is an agreement between the 4 countries, and they govern each other according to that agreement. So that's common interest. So you can go to one part of the country and you see things are working differently because that is the kind of law they've created for themselves. And if you look at it, it's very similar structure throughout the whole European Union. If people are not happy, they go out, they protest, they demand for change according to the law. This is another issue of common interest. Belgium and Netherlands peacefully withdrew their border. And I don't think this probably has happened anywhere in Africa recently, where 2 countries are able to resolve land dispute without shooting a bullet at each other. They sat together over an agreement, had arguments and so on and so forth, and said, okay, let's redraw this. Okay, this is what it's going to be. And they came to a conclusion in the interest of their own people. Naturally, those countries don't really have land borders because of an agreement they've had before to say there will be no physical border between European Union countries. Netherlands and Belgium looks like you are crossing from Lagos State to Ogun State, or you are crossing from Abuja into Niger State. That's how very open those places are. Yes, there were borders physically marked, but they need to do some kind of adjustment, and everything went well because there was a common interest in between the 2 countries. And now internally, there is should what I've been trying to talk about in this sense is that there should be what I call common interest internally before we start looking at it externally. From an organization point of view, before a change can happen, if you are at the top, you are expected to have a buy-in of every single person on board. If not, that change you are trying to implement will be frustrated. And one of the rules of implementing change in every organization is to have the buy-in of all. How can you have the buy-in of everybody in an organization? Is the first thing is for you to be able to make each and every one of them see the need for a change. So if everybody is having that understanding that, okay, there is a need for a change, then it is easy for them to have a buy-in on that idea of, yes, there is supposed to be a change. And that way, things will move on. So I've come back to this point again, the maps of all British colony again, and and the years when they got their independence. And if you look at all their structures, it's either one tribe trampling on the other tribe because they felt like they are superior or whatever. And when resources are available, one person captures it and keep it from themselves. And we've been having that structure and whatever. And it's getting to a point where all of us are thinking like, when are we going to sit down and deal with each other with respect and say, okay, instead of me hoarding resources for myself, why can't we share these resources so that there will be no hungry person among all of us? But until we get to that stage, it seems like we have a very long way to go. Review all of them. All British colony in this map, they all have similar problem, from India to Pakistan to whatever name you want to call it. Even the Arabs, until they started putting their own minds together, that's when they started building something really, really good for themselves, including the United Arab Emirates, Oman, Qatar, and every one of them. They started looking inwards and started feeling like, okay, let's build something for ourselves. And that's it's not by religion. It's not because some people have closer to one part of the religion than the other. No, it's all about them looking inward and building something for the interest of their own people, the common interest of their own people. You cannot go to Qatar or Dubai in their standard immigration system. They would have to attach you to a local person, because in the interest of their own people, they don't want you as an outsider to come and trample on their own people. So they put their own people in charge of everything. I may not be very educated very well about the geography of that place, on how very diverse they are and so on and so forth. They may be trampling on some other people. Well, but what we've seen so far is that the interest of the dominant Arab person seems to be a national interest, and they kind of projected that from what we've seen from outside. Economic systems. There are so many economic systems, and in this situation, we are only going to look at 2 or 3 of them. We don't have to go into details. I'm not an economist, and I'm not here to kind of go into details and kind of define each and every one of them. Yes, we have democracy, we have oligarchy, we have dictatorship, we have monarchy, we have anarchy, we have different types. And democracy is what we are running in Nigeria currently, and we consider it as rule, which is ruled by many. That is to say, the power is actually in the hands of the people, and the people in leadership would have to obey what the masses are saying. Meaning that when the masses are not satisfied with anything, they have to protest or put a petition through to the people at the top to make a change. Unfortunately, we are not going by that definition. We are we are going by what I would consider oligarchy, because we have few people who are in leadership, and the masses are actually at the mercy of what the people at the top are operating, which is very, very unfortunate. So dependent on the economic model you choose and the type of government you are running, the two of them must run in synchronism, and they must actually work for what you are really looking for before you can get the kind of result you are going to get. I don't know if that makes sense. Uh, China is running some form of capitalism in its own sense, but it seems like they are maybe dictatorship or communism or whatever you want to call it, works for them according to their style of capitalism, meaning that they designed capitalism, for example, for themselves according to the structure of government they are running. In Nigeria, we call it democracy, but it looks like oligarchy. But we are also running capitalism. I will get to that point, but I don't want to talk much here. I will just leave these types of government here. You can look at it, and my aim is to kind of challenge you to be able to just think about it and consider it, not to come and lecture and say this is this and that, but it's just for me to challenge your thoughts. Now, I've jumped to different kinds of economic model. Capitalism is one of them, which seems to be what we are really, really running in Nigeria. People who criticizes capitalism sees it and they made something called the pyramid of a capitalist system. Capitalism is an economic and political system which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owner for profit rather than by the state. In other words, if you think about it, we are running oligarchy, which we call democracy. And to be honest, we are running capitalism, which also looks like another form of oligarchy because it's a small group of people that are controlling it. On the contrary, if you look at the US is more of a capitalist system and they actually run democracy. Uh, you can see what looks very similar to ours in the US, but because they kind of run a much more democratic society, think the result they are getting is a little bit different from the kind of result we are getting. Now, capitalism is having its own advantage and it's having its own disadvantage. Advantage is that there can be a lot of rich people or a small group of rich people, regardless of what it is, but it's having its own advantage. You can go and read that up. I mean, there are so many ways you can look at it. Now, looking at capitalism in terms of the pyramid that I have here, you have the masses below, and you have what is considered the middle class or just over them. So the masses are the ones working really hard, and the masses and the middle class are the ones in the middle. According to a lot of analysts, they said the middle class in Nigeria have disappeared. Well, you may have to figure that out. I'm not here to tell you that. After the people, then you have the people who are in the line of defense, the military people. They are there to defend the interest of the people that are above them, not even the government. Meaning that if anybody from below is trying to climb the ladder to the top, then there is going to be a problem. Meaning that you have to be able to overcome the people who are between you and those that are in power. Above the military people, then you have the religious leaders. Those are, you have the pastors, you have the imams, and you can see the structure in Nigeria. You see that after them, you see the politicians. The politicians or the rulers or whatsoever name we call them at the top are the ones that are in charge of the money. And those small people who are leading, the next to them are the religious leaders. And those two class of people are protected by the people who have the guns, and the masses would have to struggle and find a way to overcome the people with the guns before they can take over the whatever. And it's just completely messed up according to the way capitalism is being analyzed. I'm not an economist. I cannot do probably a kind of a story-like kind of analysis of this, but it's very clear and it's very obvious. If you look at the Nigerian structure today, it is very, very obvious that this is what we have, where somebody at the top can just say, or a group of people at the top can just say, military guys, go and kill these people because they've been protesting and we don't want them to protest. They are threatening our, you understand. So I don't have to go into details of that, but that seems like the structure that we have. On the other hand of capitalism, we have socialism. Socialism is a political and economic theory of socialist organization which advocates for that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by community as a whole. Yes, it's a good one. Seems like it's a better one, but honestly speaking, it's having its own disadvantage. You've heard of communist system. There seems to be more of a socialist kind of people, and a lot of people complain about it as a very bad one too. The bottom line of the whole nonsense I'm saying when it comes to types of economic system is that extremes of everything is bad. When you have extremes of capitalism, it's bad. When you have extremes of socialism, it's bad. What are successful countries doing? Most countries that are very successful uh, today, as far as I have seen, have a combination of two different kinds of economic system, which, for example, majority of Europe, for example, are using what they call social capitalism, where it's like social capitalism is the best understood as a classic capitalism with a focus on improved social outcome and or at least economic social responsibility. They just kind of created their own system that suits them for their own people, and they took different kinds of systems, matched them together to refine the kind of outcome they are actually looking for. And if you look at successful countries, two things: they are formed out of common interest and they have a combination of economic models. If we as Nigerians could actually look into that, I think we will have a kind of a majority success. Before I come into the slide, let me stay here a little bit and tell you a little bit about the story of what I understand about how Finland became one of the best countries in the world for education. How they came up with a model that turned them into the best country was that they sat down and they studied. They took one of their leading academicians to say, study the model of academic model of different countries in the world, the best ones and the bad ones. So they took US, they took everything. When they took everything together, and they felt like, okay, this is what works here, this is what works here, and this one's not working here. They now created their own system, which pushed them at the top of every other country, and they became the best country for education. And as expensive as doctors are paid in the US, that's the same way they pay teachers in Finland. And the rest of the world became, wow. They actually wrote a book on how they did it. So if you want to read it, you can go and look for what is called Finnish Lessons 2.0. There's a 2 hour or 1 hour 40 minute video on it on YouTube that you can watch. It's called Finnish Lessons 2.0, and the guy narrated the book on how they did it. You will be surprised. You will be amazed. So we need to come. The bottom line of the whole thing I'm saying here today, if you don't get anything, is that we need to have a country that is formed out of common interest, and we need to form an economic model that works for us, not just out of the book. This is Nigeria today. I don't want to explain all this, but the background itself, let's dissect. I've spoken about how the pyramid system, the capitalist pyramid system, fits into our current Nigerian economy, where you've seen the masses pushing on every problem and etc. The Nigerian economy is a problem, and you see the politicians that are inside, enjoying and so on and so forth. I don't even want to explain about that. You know a lot about that, more than even I think I know. Another part of it is, if you look at the second stage of the pyramid system, you see weaponizing poverty, you see the police standing, and even the police you are fighting for are the ones that are taking their guns to shoot you. You see our rich politicians who think they are actually above poverty, but they are actually more poor in their, I don't know what name I want to call it, but you can see them ordering the food that belongs to the masses, which is really, really sad, because they need to keep everybody hungry so that during election, when they give us a little bit of food, we will, vote for them and appreciate them. And that's how very sad it is. So common interest is still I think is in the heart of poverty for us in Nigeria, and that needs to be fixed. Way forward, I want to be done complaining. I want to be done telling you how bad it is. The only way forward is only, I said before that before you can implement a change in an organization, you need to have a buy-in of everybody in the organization. If not, such change will be frustrated. Some people at the University of Edinburgh and a couple of other universities in the States came up with a term called Afrocapitalism. Afrocapitalism is actually an economic model where they think private sector has the power to transform the continent through long-term investment, creating both economic prosperity and social wealth. That is possible. It can only happen in large scale. And if you look at what China is doing today, China is putting a lot of investment into their private sector to ensure that they go outside and win more business and get more money and pump more money back into China. That's the model that China is using. And that's what the concept of Afrocapitalism is all about. However, there is no way private sector will thrive if the policies that are being made by politicians are killing private sectors. Look at what happened to GoCada. Look at what is happening to people that are trading cryptocurrency in Nigeria. Look at what's happening to so many sectors in Nigeria. And some people, because, for example, they said the power sector cannot be good because some politicians are benefiting from the importation of generators. So you can see that kind of contrast. It's very hard for African capitalism to survive when there is where policy is really, really, really weak, or where the policy is really, really bad. So African capitalism can come into implementation or into fruition, but the chances is going to be very slim. But luck do happen. People can overcome or strive through those barriers. But it's a 50-50 chance. How do you get the buy-in of everybody? I think education is a key tool. Somebody spoke on Clubhouse this week and it spoke about how education is the problem. If there is no education, you see people fighting education in some part of Nigeria. You see, and education can only come either through the common channels in Nigeria today, is either through the religious settings or through the academic settings or through whatever. So we need to come together, have a common interest, and through that common interest, educate each other. No, I'm not talking about certificate. It's all about education. Education in the sense that we as a Nigerian or we as Nigerians should understand what is the meaning of election. Why do you have to elect somebody? When you elect somebody, what should you expect? What should be their roles and responsibility? How much is Nigeria generating today? Those are key, basic, fundamental education that we need to have. There is a trending debate on YouTube recently about young Africans who were debating, I think in the 60s, about prejudice against different countries. And I realized one thing that is very common with all the South Africans that came to that debate. They all are repeating the same thing as purported, as promoted by the apartheid government of South Africa back then, that says Black people cannot govern themselves, Black people cannot do this, and we need to educate them, and we need to do this for them so that they will be able to. So we are going to give them freedom very soon. So until we all are on the same page in terms of education, knowing what governance is, knowing what to expect from our politicians, knowing how to ask for accountability according to the system we've designed for ourselves, we will still be in poverty. We need to have that financial education. I'm not talking about certificate, political education, financial education, civic education, and also kinds of stuff. And I think the best place is to use the existing channels that we have in Nigeria today, which is formal education, churches and mosque, whatsoever channel, people who wants to do volunteering and etc. That is the only way for us to get out of poverty. The moment we are all educated about these things, our demands will be similar because our problems, the problem of common Nigerians, are the same. We all are hungry. We all want better life. Though some people are being told you need to be contented with what you have because this is how God wants it for you. But I believe the moment people get educated, they will be empowered to ask for what they actually really need. And those at the top will also have to shift position and say it is time for us to give to them what exactly or what truly belongs to them. Because, for example, if our police or our military officers are very educated from top to the bottom, they will not be bold enough at the order of whosoever is in power to open fire on citizens. So it's all about educating. Education is the only way for us to have the buy-in of everybody from the top to the bottom. And at that point in time, the need for change would make a lot of sense. And that, I think this is the last slide, which says, if the system works, because we need to build a system, everything you throw into that system is going to work. And that is why I am talking about good policies for change. It comes from education. For change to happen, we must first identify the need for it. And for us to identify the need for it, we all must be educated enough for us to understand that this thing is not working as it is supposed to work. Let's build a system for ourselves that works for us, that will give us the kind of outcome that we desire, such that an average or anybody who is identified as a Nigerian will not be eager or desperate to run away from this land, going through the desert to cross the sea to a place where they will be treated as second-class citizens. This is my submission. Thank you, and God bless you.
Okay, thank you, viewers at home. Stay tuned as we are going to take a break, and there will be questions and answers. As I said, do well to follow us on our Twitter handle, Papka Inc., Instagram, Papka International, YouTube channel, Papka International TV, and many other social media handle as we bring the discussion on the way to be able to find the vaccine for poverty virus in Nigeria. We will be back in the meantime.